Good morning. This is Mona, and this is my morning view today. Spring edition 2026. It is Fiesty Friday. Feisty Friday, the day that I get to offend, and sometimes even myself. All right, so it's also my day to complain. I thought about some complaints this week, and it's like, now I've forgotten them. Because I don't dwell on them. All right. Feisty Friday. Okay, so I don't know how feisty it's going to be, because sometimes I usually use things for controversial purposes for Fridays. So if I'm going to say something controversial that will offend, because we know that Jesus wasn't afraid to offend people. Eat my flesh, drink my blood, or hit the road. Have no part of me, right? So because of that, I'm okay with it. And the offense isn't on the speaker. It's on the recipient. Yeah, they may have meant to offend. Sometimes they may not have meant to offend, and they still offend. But it's what is that's going on inside of you that's causing you to be offended, right? It's that dross that God tries to stir up. And in the refining process. All right, so I watched a short this morning. Shorts are about the only thing I get to sometimes. There's some longer ones, but those I'm very, very choosy about. Uh-oh. I don't know what that goes to. Yeah, those are still there. Okay, put that right there so it doesn't get lost. All right, or the dog doesn't step on it. Okay, oh, there she is, the star of the show. Let me show you. Right there, star of the show. Went to the vet last night. Gave her some more meds. Has to go back in for full leg and shoulder x-rays. So we're going to have to put her out. Don't like that. I don't like going under. I don't like my animals having to go under. But it's the only way to find some answers, or at least clear some of the stuff, right? Okay, so my husband's beginning to think that it's just like ligament issues, or something like that. But we'll see. We'll see what's going on with her, because as we said last night, what if it was your own child? And we are responsible for our pets. We are, how do you say that? They're entrusted to us. Just like this earth is entrusted to us. All right. So, the wind's picking up, getting chilly. Okay, what we're going to talk about. This individual was speaking on this short, and they were talking about, they're fairly a new Christian. They're reading the Bible. They're reading in Genesis. I guess he started from the beginning. And he's at the point of close to the Exodus, where the 10 plagues are hitting Egypt. And the 10th plague was when the eldest dies. The eldest of humans, of cattle, whatever. The firstborn. The firstborn, not eldest in the old people. We're talking about the firstborn. So that ranges from all different ages. If you were the firstborn. Now, there was a way out of this. It was taking the blood of the lamb and putting it on your doorpost. And there, the angel of death passed by and touched no one in the house. Now, I don't think he's gotten to that point yet, but will he actually grasp that this was a way out? That people had an option. Okay, so his thought was, you know, would God kill innocent people? Would God kill innocent people? He goes, the God I met in the hospital, he was loving. And he couldn't wrap his head around it. He was struggling with it. And an interesting thing about struggle, Jacob struggled. Jacob struggled with God. God did not have a problem wrestling with Jacob, letting Jacob wrestle it out. And Jacob grabbed a hold of him and said, I'm not letting go until you bless me. And that is really the key to struggle. It is really the key to struggle is, I'm not letting go of you, God, until you bless me. I'm not letting go of you, God, until I understand this comprehension of what you're trying to tell me here, because in my mind, I don't grasp it. I don't understand. And so I'm wrestling with this. But I'm not letting go of you. The key. I'm not letting go of you. All right. So, bringing us back to those places, especially in the Old Testament, where it talks about destruction on people, right? Of all ages. Wipe them all out. Whatever. There are parts in the Bible where there's hard things to look at. Going, why is that in the Bible? Why would God even tell us about that? And I always refer back to Judges, like chapter 30, I think it is, somewhere around that area. I don't know the address. I don't even know how many books are in Judges. But near the end of Judges, there is I want to say he's a priest, right? Not the high priest, just, from the Levitical line. And he's traveling with his concubine, going back to a place where he shouldn't be living at. And he stops in Benjamin. He stops in a town that belongs to the Benjamites. And something really bad happens there. And there's a plane flying over. So hopefully you'll be able to hear me through this. Something bad happens there. And then it turns worse. 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 All because of one individual not doing what he's supposed to do as a Levite. So here we are. Old Testament talks about judgment. Talks about judgment. And so whenever there's something that happens because of man's sin, God gets the blame for it. God took the blame for it. See, yes, God said, hey, look, every firstborn will die. Every firstborn will die. But here's a way out. And some people thought, well, on your God, not going to happen. They had 9 other signs that showed that every single god that they serve was powerless in the face of God. And here it has been shown, it has been proven, it has been marked, and they didn't take the out. They were being stubborn, just like Pharaoh. Just like Pharaoh. I was going to try to say his name, but I'm going to torture it right now. It starts with an M. It is not Ramses like the movies. So, Yeah, I'm going to torture the name right now. So I have mentioned it in other videos, but probably not the ones that are on YouTube yet. They're back a ways. All right. So man sins because he either doesn't believe God has the power and authority over him, or he believes that their gods are greater, or he's just dumb. He's just dumb. Anyways, the point is that they had an out and they chose not to take it. And then God gets blamed. God gets blamed. Not in the Old Testament. It's not saying that God's to blame for this. Well, kind of. But in our eyes, in our, how we think God ought to be, right? And not looking at the just. There is a just level of scales that happens when a person sins. They deserve death. That's the equality to the crime. People don't understand that because crimes are not punished today. People aren't held accountable. And so, man, left to his own devices, will do what he does. And that's what happened in Judges. It constantly said that it was a time when people did whatever was right in their own heart. And they had no king. Well, God was their king. God was their king, but they rejected the idea of God being their king because they wanted a earthly king, just like everybody else. And I still see this, even in the kids and in the parents in school. So-and-so did it. It doesn't matter, so-and-so did it. I caught you. I caught you. Right? It's not about that so-and-so did it. It's that you did it. It's not about that they own something that you don't own. Now you're coveting. They were coveting a human king. And he's like, look, if you have a human king, this is what's going to happen. He's going to take your men to serve in his army to fight wars. He's going to take your men, and he's going to take your women, and he's going to make them servants. Your daughters, they're going to be servants in his palace. And a few other things. Is that what you really want? Yes, that's what we really want. We want to be just like them. Okay. And you had some kings. You had a couple good ones, but you had mostly bad ones. It divided the nation. You ended up in exile. It was this roller coaster ride throughout the whole Old Testament. And sometimes there's stories in there just to let us know how we are. But we have to look at that. We got to look at that. A lot of times people just look at the Old Testament as history and stories, and that's all it is. Histories and stories. Oh, and that it points to Jesus because there's some scriptures there that point to Jesus. Yes, the Old Testament is pointing to Jesus. The whole story from beginning to end is the story of Jesus. The whole story is that. Now, mind you, the Old Testament is more than just judgment. Judgment is one aspect that I'm talking about it for today. For the storyline here. What's going on in my head. Judgment. God judges the people in the Old Testament. And the only way out is the blood of the Lamb. Again, pointing to Jesus. Whether it was a yearly sacrifice, whether it was a sacrifice for atonement, whether it was a sacrifice for sin, whether it was a sacrifice for curses of the law. When a woman had to go through her menstrual cycle after she was purified, after she was washed and she was cleansed, she had to go provide a sacrifice to the temple. I think I got that right. Definitely after she's had a child. That was part of the reason why she had to go to the temple. She had to give her own sacrifice, and then she had to get Jesus circumcised. But there were certain things, like lepers. If you were cleansed, then you went to the temple. The thing of it is no one really was cleansed. You had Laban, was that his name? The dude from Syria. He was the captain of the armies of Syria. He came down and he had leprosy, and he went to go to the prophet, and the prophet sent his servant out and said, "Hey, go dip yourself 7 times in the Jordan." And he goes, "That's a filthy river." Have you ever seen the Jordan? Have you ever seen pictures of Jordan? It doesn't look real clean, even now. It's not as big as it was back then, because back then you didn't have all the irrigation stuff coming out of it. So now there's irrigation that comes out for the watering of Israel. However, it was slightly bigger back in the day. All right, so the point is this: is that the Jordan River was a dirty river, and he went in and reluctantly, but he's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And he dunked himself 7 times, and he was cleansed. But he wasn't Jewish, so he didn't have to go to the temple. He didn't have to go there and say, hey, I need to make a sacrifice to your God for cleansing me. I don't think he did. I don't remember him doing so. But he didn't have to, because guess what? He wasn't Jewish. How many lepers were there in Israel? Right? But no one got cleansed from leprosy, except for, oh yes, there was 2. Moses, brother and sister, Miriam and Aaron. They're talking smack to Moses, and God set them in straight. And Moses pleaded for them. And Mary was outside the camp for a little bit, and she was restored through Moses' prayers, and God restored her for the sake of Moses. And sometimes you got to be careful in who you're talking smack against. Just saying. All right. Now, so that was their introduction, their on-the-job training to go ahead and do the sacrifice for leprosy in the tabernacle. So moving right along, you get to Jesus' time, and he restores lepers. Right there and then. Boom. Done. Right? So, Old Testament judgment. Old Testament points to our sin. Shows us that nothing we can do will be good enough. The law is the point that nothing we can do. We can't keep them. We can't keep the 10 Commandments, let alone the 639 of them. There's a lot to the law. And that's why when the Pharisees and them and the scribes were adding new laws, the Pharisees, Sadducees, all of them, the whole bunch, the whole brood of vipers. Anyways, they were adding laws on top of the laws because they didn't want people to even come close to breaking the real law. They were doing it out of their own, it's like, we care about you guys and we don't want you breaking the rules, so we're going to make some rules that are precursors to the rules. Except for some of the rules that they made were just as extreme as the rules that are broken. You know what I'm saying? That the rules, the original rules, God's rules. And some of those rules were circumstantial. You had some rules that had to do with Levitical duties, right? You had sanitation rules. That was for the betterment of your body. Because if you went out there and you ate some dead carcass and you got sick and died, don't eat meat that's been strangled. They're not talking about, they're talking about like wild cats. They go for the, and they strangle the animal. Well, they bring it down. They don't bleed it out. They strangle it. And that can leave some bad bacteria. Really bad bacteria. Man, if you even got scratched, even nowadays they call it cat scratch fever. You have your domestic cat or whatever, and they scratch you. Their fingernails are filthy. I got scratched trying to stick my cat. I've been watching it, making sure it doesn't get infected. Last Thursday, taking the cat to go get his rabies shot. He wanted no part of that box. Nope. And it's a big box. He doesn't want it. Sometimes we feel like God's putting us in a box, and we don't want any part of it, even though it's for our best interest. Yeah. So then we get to the New Testament. Redemption. The provision that was made. The provision that was promised through that Exodus experience. Through the lamb and wiping the doorposts with the blood of the lamb. A lot of symbolism there that corresponds to the cross. A lot of it. A lot that people don't even recognize right away. So, with the redemption is that provision. It's that provision that God made all along. That there's an out. But you get to choose. You get to choose whether you're going to wipe that blood on your doorposts. Or whether it could be the doorpost of your heart. Right? Jesus knocks. He's standing at the door. They had the Passover supper, all pointing to Jesus. The redemption, where he nailed the curse of the law on the cross. All those things that were curses He made a way out. He made provision. You don't have to stay there. It's a space where He's provided, but we're not all the way there yet. We're healed and we're being healed. We're free and we're being set free. It comes down to the choice. It comes down to will you put the blood of the Lamb on your doorpost? Or will you invite the angel of death in? I have a thought in my head, but I'm not sure how to bring it into what I'm talking about. Waiting for the plane to go by. Ah, yeah. The flight path. The flight path. Right. So I think I'm going to stop it there. That other thought, I'm going to have to get more into it and possibly write it down. Maybe I'll just write down the thought itself, and the Lord will bring something to that. Isaiah has 66 books. The first, 39, 40 talks about Old Testament concepts. From 40 to the end, to 66, it talks about New Testament concepts. It's like it holds the old and the new together. There's judgment. There's redemption. Like I said, the Old Testament is not just judgment. The New Testament is not just redemption. I'm getting another thought in my head that doesn't seem like it goes with this. It's something that I talked about this week, about that living word. That it's God breathed. The word is God breathed. It's not the English words. It's not the Hebrew words. It's not the Greek words. It's not any words in the world. It's the essence and meaning of the word. It's what He's trying to get across. And a lot of times what we do is we think about the stories. We think about what is the front message, the message laying on top, but there's layers and layers and layers to the word. So that's why you can read a passage and you think you got it, and then you read it again and something else pops out and goes, whoa, where did that come from? Why didn't I see that before? And so He calls you to go deep. And sometimes it's not about studying, because a lot of times we have our commentaries. We have, there was a time when I used to have my Strong's Concordance and my binds, and I'd have my notebooks, and I'd be writing and cross-referencing and writing things in Hebrew and writing things in Greek just to get a grasp of, oh, look at that, I'm doing Hebrew and Greek. Woo! and And it's not about that. It's that contemplating, it's that meditating on the Word. It's you can study the Word and memorize the entire Bible and know all the stories and all the stuff on surface level. On surface level. Or you can listen to a great theologian and he can give you another level. But when you read just a portion of it, one storyline, one story, sometimes even just one scripture, but you don't want to take scripture out of context. No, because I could talk about that next week, taking scripture out of context. People do it in Philippians all the time. So, when you take that one portion and you ask God questions and you wrestle with it and you say, God, I'm not going to let go of you. I'm not going to let go of you until you bless me. I'm not going to let go until you reveal to me what you're wanting to say here. Reveal to me something fresh in my soul. Something fresh in my spirit. More than soul. Because you can get a lot of things into your soul. Mind, will, and emotions. Yeah, that'll kill you a little bit. But what you get in your spirit, that's God breathed. That's when that living word penetrates into your spirit and quickens you and gives you new life. It's like a super bee shot. Boom, right to the spirit. Because it's living. And sometimes it looks funky. Sometimes it's like, why? Why is this in the Bible? What is God wanting to say? Why was that even done? Why are we told about certain situations and things that occurred in the Bible that it's like, well, that's not encouraging. It's there for a reason. Every part of the Bible is there for reproof, for correction, for encouragement. You just got to put it in the right category. What is it there for? God's always saying, therefore, and you have to think, what is it there for? Well, this is in the context of the whole Bible. Every story, every line. What is it there for? What is God really trying to say? Because it's not just a story. There's something in this that is not just a story. All right. That's all I got for you today. Blessings, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. It's Memorial Weekend, so I probably will not be on Monday. Because I take weekends and holidays and vacation days off. And if I happen to give you a video, it is a bonus video. So it's not expected. Go over to YouTube. Both here on Facebook and YouTube. Like, share, comment. Helps the algorithm. Hit subscribe while you're there. And I'll get all the bells and whistles and get the notifications as well. Although I don't really do, I only do shorts on YouTube. I haven't done any lives like I do here on Facebook. But eventually I plan on doing that. So for now, hit the notifications. And then when I do start doing lives on YouTube, then you'll be ready. You'll be all set. All right. So, although I think sometimes YouTube drops them off if you don't use them regularly, and then you have to kind of resubscribe or re-hit notifications or something to that extent. So, yeah. Wrestle with God. It's not a bad thing. All right. Blessings, everybody. Have a great day. And I will see you on Tuesday.